There are a lot of ways to spend gems in Rise of Kingdoms, and some of them are really high leverage and others are not very good at all. So in this video, I'm going to go over the very best ways to get value with your gems in Rise of Kingdoms. And speaking of getting value, allow me to tell you about the sponsor of today's video. Today's video is sponsored by Gizmodo, a service that buys your used and unwanted electronics. And this includes, but is not limited, to cell phones, tablets, laptops, consoles, and more. And they'll even buy them from you if they're broken. Here's how it works. Step 1, you search for your device model. Step 2, enter your information about the device to get your free quote. From there, you send in your device in a prepaid shipping label and box that Gizmodo will send directly to you. Step 4, you get paid within 1 business day of their receiving and evaluating the electronics that you sent. Now, I checked out Gizmodo on Trustpilot to see how other people reviewed them, and they got 540 reviews with an average of 4.8 out of 5, which is a good review. If you enter the code Chisgule, that's my name, during the checkout process, they'll give you an extra $5 off any device sold over $75. Use the link in the description to check out Gizmodo, and thanks again to them for sponsoring today's video. Here's what we're going to do in today's video. First and foremost, I'm going to give you a list of goals. So if you are a newer player to the game, you'll have some objectives, things you should try to get done with your gems. From there, I'm going to talk about the events that are super high leverage that give you disproportionate value. I'll also give you some advanced considerations if you have a more developed account. I'll also talk about some whale moves, things you can do if you are a big spender. I'll talk about where not to spend your gems, give you some future considerations, and we'll wrap it up with ways to get more gems. Obviously, spending is one, but there are, of course, a bunch of free-to-play things you can do as well. So let's start with, what is it that your goals should be for your gems? Because in this game, gems are very high leverage in a way that they are not usually in other games. By that, I'm trying to say that gem spending is critical. And one of the first things you should consider is gemming your VIP. Why is that? At VIP 10, you get 1 legendary commander sculpture. At VIP 12, you get 2. And at VIP 14, you get 3 every single day. This delivers a huge amount of gem value back to you. So if you are going to be a long-term player of this game, the sooner you get to VIP 14, the sooner you start banking 3 legendary commander sculptures per day. And that will definitely give you very good progression on your account. Of course, higher VIP is good too, but it starts to get really expensive to go any further than VIP 14, which I think is about 750,000 total VIP points, which is a pretty big number. Another very worthy objective, a good place to be spending your gems, is going to be on your state forum. And the state forum is going to allow you to get free-to-play armament value. Armaments will be extremely powerful. If you haven't unlocked the state forum yet, don't worry, you will. Probably it's, I think, castle level or city hall level 21, where you unlock the state forum. Now, the state forum was recently updated, but you're going to want to spend some amount of gems on the Sage's Testimony. It's a critical item, 10 gems a pop, necessary to upgrade this thing, so that you can get to level 10 on your state forum very quickly. This will be a very small amount of gems, but if you have additional gems to spend, I think that getting to level 19 or 20 is really good, so that you can start to get 7 daily dispatch chances. You don't want to gem all the way to the max level of the state forum, because actually getting Sage's Testimonies you can do free to play, and it's a pretty good way to farm up the equivalent of gems, and it's surprising how many you can get free to play. So you can go to 20. If you've gone further, you are getting value, and there is value to it. But if you're a brand new player, man, you got a lot of other things to do. For example, one of those things to unlock tier 5 troops is going to be working on your castle. Now, the castle is going to require an item that's very difficult to farm. In fact, if I make my way over to my shop, I can show you, you can buy the Books of the Covenant for 10 gems a pop, or you can rally tons of barb forts, and it will take you ages to get them free to play. Pretty much everybody who works toward T5 troops spends some amount of gems on these books of the covenant for their castle. By the way, this is what the Sage's Testimony looks like. And while we're here, let's talk about the Master's Blueprints. Once you get to City Hall level 25, one of your priorities is going to be taking other buildings to 25. Now, to take any building to 25, you have to have Master's Blueprints. These cost you 2,000 gems a pop. Now, don't worry, I have some good news around getting value when you buy some of these Master's Blueprints. We'll talk about that in just a minute. From here, there are, of course, other ways you can spend your gems toward maxing commanders and maxing your equipment. And we're going to talk about that and the advanced considerations more in depth in a bit when we talk about events as well. So as you can see, there's obviously a lot of stuff you can be doing. But as a newer player, I think your number one priorities are going to be VIP and getting your state forum to a good place. Yes, it really sucks to delay unlocking your T5 troops. However, Tier 4 troops are freaking great, okay? And look, you can still get a lot of really great research in your academy leading up to your T5 troops just from having an academy level 24. Now, I will say, getting your academy to 25, which will require having your castle to 25, is going to give you a research speed boost. So it is a worthy project, but just realistically, keep in mind, it's going to take you a long time, and you want to get value over time through events. And let's talk about some of those events right now. The most important event we need to talk about is called a More Than Gems event. We don't have one live at the time of this recording. However, I'm going to put up on the screen a calendar for all of the events that are planned for 2023. This calendar is courtesy of Loyalty King, and if you want to see this more in depth, check it out on my Discord server. It is pinned in one of the general chats. This calendar tells you when the More Than Gems is, and what does it do? More Than Gems is an event where you get rewards for spending up to 25,000 gems per day. Now, this event is a 2-day event, and although we don't have one in the event calendar now, you can spend that upwards of 50,000 gems and get extra stuff. So if you're going to be spending gems on VIP or Sage's Testimonies or Master's Blueprints or Books of the Covenant for your castle, the best time to do it is during one of these More Than Gems events so that you're spending your gems and you're also getting a bunch of speed ups and legendary commander sculptures just for doing something you would have done anyways. Now keep in mind that you do get value from having VIP. You do get value from having your state forum higher level. So don't sandbag too much waiting for a More Than Gems. Use that calendar that I was referencing. Hopefully, look, they're date projections, they're guesses, but they were based off of the previous year's events, and so far, it looks like things have been aligning pretty well to that. And if there's an updated version of the calendar, I'll of course pin it in my Discord server, again, linked in the description. But from there are holiday events that are really high leverage. One of those is a 7,000 gem event. You should pretty much always have 7,000 gems on hand so that you can do a 7K gem event. You basically spend these 7,000 gems to upgrade the reward tier of the event, and it's so high leverage, you actually typically get almost all your gems back in gem tokens, and on top of that, you get like 35 legendary commander sculptures, and materials, and speed ups, and all this other stuff. That is extremely high leverage. Even if you're super free to play, you never want to be caught without 7,000 gems on hand so that you can do one of these events. Now, you could risk it, okay? If you've got a holiday event running and it's not a 7K gem event, then okay, cool, you could spend some gems and then try to save up by the time one shows up again, but I would keep those 7,000 gems on hand. Now, in addition, there are events that show up where you can spend lots of gems. We actually just had one of those. It was Holy Knight's Treasure. Another one that's really great is the Wheel of Fortune. The key to these events, if you are spending very little in the game or free to play, is to look at the reward tiers of those events. So, for example, there will be a treasure chest that you unlock for getting to 10 spins. That's true of Holy Knight's Treasure. That's also true of the Wheel of Fortune. And it will give you a bunch of stuff. In the Holy Knight's Treasure, it gives you legendary blueprints. And in the Wheel of Fortune, you get like 5 legendary commander sculptures. But if you just do your free spin and your 50% spin on a couple days, all of a sudden you're really close to getting that 10 spot. You do another 5 spin and then maybe one more, and boom, you unlock the rewards for the 10. This was pointed out to me in a live stream as the literal best way in the game to be accumulating sculptures, the best way in the game to be getting some of these blueprint fragment choice chests. So if you have the gems and you've got your other projects in a good spot, I think that is a very high leverage way to get some serious value. Otherwise, you can do those events to 100, or really just like whatever the maximum number of spins is to get the highest tier reward. On the Wheel of Fortune, I believe it's 15 legendary commander sculptures, and on the Holy Knight's Treasure, it's 9, I think, blueprint choice chests. And only if you are a super whale do you continue to sort of spin beyond that. Now, on the topic of events that are more of a trap, let's talk about Dalruk's Puzzle Box and Esmeralda. And my gosh, I'll just tell you straight up, look into my eyes. I've never been more wrecked than when I do Esmeralda and subsequently Dalruk's Puzzle Box. You can do these events if you are a big whale. And if you actually need epic blueprint fragments and research speed-ups and all the other things that are in there, you might get some good value. But if you have a progressed account, those events start to drop off in value very, very, very quickly. If you don't need the epic fragments because you have lots of legendary equipment, that event just really drops off. If you don't need the research speed-ups, you don't need the building speed-ups. So that is probably the last event that you would even consider spending gems on, even to the 10 spin spot, because it's probably not worth it. Now, one final event that is no longer showing up in older kingdoms, but still is around in occasional new kingdoms, is called the Card King. I'll have a card up in the top for a dedicated video explaining how you can get value from the Card King, but you do actually want to do the free exploration of each level. And if there is a universal legendary commander sculpture in the Card King for a level you're playing, that could be really high value. Now, while we're here, I do want to talk about some advanced considerations, because when you look at this account, I mean, I got a lot of commanders, man. Do I really need to be spinning the Wheel of Fortune to work on commanders? And also, yeah, I like getting value over time, but let's talk about CJ. To some extent, value over time is great. On the flip side of things, after you spin the wheel a couple times for a commander, you should probably consider maxing them. And you shouldn't just spin the wheel like crazy for every single commander that comes out. You should have a very defined plan. And I can show this to you, by the way, on my Restart account. Now, I've made a dedicated video explaining this way more in depth, and I'll have a card up in the top for the best kind of ways and places to spend your sculptures. But the point is as follows. You should have a plan for how many marches of each troop type you want to make. For me, on my Restart account, it's 3 infantry, 1 archer, 1 cavalry. And I just worked on those until they're all in a really good spot. And it turns out I have really good commanders now on my Restart account, to the point that I actually don't really need more commanders anymore. And so this is an advanced consideration once you knock out more of the basic projects like your State Forum, your VIP, your Castle, your Master's Blueprints. One of the advanced considerations is, do you really need more commanders? And on this account, I am hoarding gems like a madman, waiting for an equipment-related event where I can dump a bunch of gems that will probably be a Holy Knight's Treasure. I am waiting for some inscription and armament-based events, and we're supposed to get some armament-related gem spending options. I'll talk more about that later on. I'm waiting for those to show up to spend on this account, because the reality is that I actually don't improve this account much by getting more commanders. I mean, yeah, more commanders are good, but I already have Guan with Alex, Sargon with CJ, Trajan with Skippy. I've got Nevsky and Joan. I have Boudica and Esong. I also could bring Ethelfled back into the mix. I mean, I have 11 legitimate legendary commanders, and I only run 5 marches in the field. So just consider at some point, where is it that you really need to spend your gems? And now I just sort of keep enough universal legendary commander sculptures on hand that if I need to, sure, I can max commanders as they come out, but I don't have to spin the wheel like crazy for them. I can save my gems for other things. Now, this leaves a number of things that you may be surprised that I didn't talk about for spending your gems, such as the courier station. And the courier station is actually a very bad place to spend your gems. And you may think, wait, Chisgule, what the heck are you talking about? This is a bad place to spend your gems? And I would say absolutely no questions asked. This is terrible. Why? Because unless the item is extremely discounted, like 80%, then sometimes the speed ups are worth it. But unless you're getting a discount like that, you should be saving your gems for something like the Wheel of Fortune, where you could just spin to 10 and get extra rewards. Or a Holy Knight's Treasure, spin to 10, get a ton of extra rewards. The value is way, 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 way higher in all those other events. So the Mysterious Merchant is actually fully a trap. And I know there are some achievements for like refreshing 5 times and clearing out the shop and all that kind of stuff. I mean, if you want to do that, all right, it's achievement points, but it's probably not worth it, okay? The other place that is a trap, most people should not be spending gems, is a terrible place to spend your gems, is the VIP shop. Now, if you are a low spender or free-to-play, again, Wheel of Fortune, spin to 10 or to one of the other tiers. That's more value. You could do Holy Knight's Treasure, spin to 10 or do more to one of the higher tiers. That's more value. VIP shop starts to be value for gem accounts with just stupid amounts of gems, people that are spending ridiculous amounts of money, which is what I'm doing on my main account. And I can show you exactly what I purchase in there. It's not a secret. I'm buying all the materials and I'm buying some of the speed ups. I don't buy the 8-hour speed ups typically. I don't buy the 5-minute speed ups for gems. That's terrible value. The 24-hour speed ups are higher value. So that's what I go and I pick up. Now, while we're waiting for this to load, I will also mention one other thing that's a whale move, which is that in the Hunt for History, you can buy hammers and you can spend gems to do it. I think that is a whale move. Or if you somehow did the math wrong or you took a risk and you only need a couple hammers to get a little bit further, sure, in that case, you could spend some gems and get some hammers. Otherwise, I don't think hammers and Hunt for History is a particularly high leverage way to be spending your gems. Right? So you can see what I get in here. And during a More Than Gems event, I'll pick up some of these 10% boosts. Typically, I'll go for 10% defense, even though it costs more. Defense is a better stat than attack in most instances. So I pick up the defense token during a More Than Gems event. The final place that you can actually still spend gems, sort of, and get good value is on your action points. Now, you have to be out of action point potions before you can actually spend gems on this. So you would need to probably be in a KVK where you're pushing rank 1 for honor. Otherwise, like, why did you spend all your AP? That would be super weird. But if you are pushing rank 1 for honor and you want to spend some amount of gems on AP, that actually is super worth. You used to be able to just do this without having to spend all your potions. And I would spend gems every single day on AP because I was converting that into speed ups and I was rallying barb forts and converting that into more action points. So all that to say, that used to be high leverage, but you can't really do that anymore. So future considerations here, things you need to be thinking about. One is, hey, wait a minute. Are we going to have some events related to armaments? And I'm hoping that we will. The developers have teased that they are going to make those. And the majority of these armaments I probably should recycle. At the time of this recording, the developers haven't revealed how they will allow you to enhance an existing armament, but they've teased that you might be able to in the future. So, you know, I've got a stupid amount of these. This is also where I'm spending. But this is where my restart account that I showed you earlier is going to try to spend all the gems, is on stuff like this to enhance my armaments. That's the biggest gains that I can possibly get. The other thing that you're going to be able to do is spend gems on traveling. And I will make a dedicated video about that once it actually shows up in the game. It was in the patch notes, but isn't actually here yet. This could be super high leverage, and you could always just do a YouTube search for Chisgule, Gems, State Forum, and I'm sure I will have a video once that goes live to talk about whether or not it's high value. So those are some future considerations, things to think about. Now, at the end of the video, I just want to talk about how is it that you can get more gems. There are a number of things that you can do. One is battling barbarians and AoE farming. I'll have a card up in the top if you'd like to check out an AoE barb farming guide. It is extremely time consuming, but if you're, on a plane or traveling somewhere via car or bus, and you're just bored and you have internet connection, you could just run around AoE barb farming and get a bunch of gems from the barbs that you smash. Also, be sure to take advantage of quests whenever they show up in the daily events. It is rare that those quests will have raw gems as a reward, but for example, each of the stages of Mightiest Governor gives you a little bit of gems. When you get to the highest tier, you should get that done. And of course, I don't have to tell you, you're watching a Chisgule Gaming YouTube video and you're like 25 minutes in. So consider subscribing if you haven't already and throwing a like on the video if you're getting some value. But if you go in and do your daily quests, you get a small amount of gems as well. Be sure that you're getting that done. The final main consideration for getting gems is that if you are one of the very heavily committed players, you can actually search around the map, and instead of farming resources on your main account, which is what I do, you can go around and you can farm gems on your main account instead. And, here's a gem node. And these gem nodes take very little time to farm. It's like 10 minutes and you've cleared the gem node, which means you have to spend a lot of time very attentively watching when gem nodes complete. And you can go from gem node to gem node, getting a very large amount of gems and upwards of 3,000 to 4,000 a day. And if you want to see my very detailed guide on how to farm up that many gems per day, I'll have a card in the end screen in just a second.